Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I am moving into Read Aloud with Wonder, and we are moving into Miranda's perspective. And one of the things that hopefully you remember is at the end of the last chapters that we read is that we were in Augie's perspective, but he was watching the play Our Town that Justin and Via and Miranda was supposed to be in, and Miranda was the lead with Justin, Via's boyfriend, and as Augie and his parents were watching as the play started, they find out that Emily in the play ends up being Via that time. And so we start to see in this section Miranda's perspective on everything that's been happening. We know at the beginning of the story, Via told us that her and Miranda and Ella used to be really good friends, but as soon as the school year started, things seem to have shifted, and so we start to see Miranda's point of view on this. And I like this book because of this reason, because it really gives us an idea of sometimes when people drift away from us or relationships go sour, it's not always that they're trying to be mean to us, but other things are going on in their lives that they can't control. So let's take a look at Miranda's perspective and maybe why she's been acting the way that she has. Here we go. Part 7. Miranda. Camp Lies. My parents got divorced the summer before 9th grade. My father was with someone else right away. In fact, though my mother never said so, I think this was the reason they got divorced. After the divorce, I hardly ever saw my father. And my mother acted stranger than ever. It's not that she was unstable or anything, just distant, remote. My mother is the kind of person who has a happy face for the rest of the world, but not a lot left over for me. She's never talked to me much, not about her feelings, her life. I don't know much about what she was like when she was my age. Don't know much about the things she liked or didn't like. The few times she mentioned her own parents, who I've never met, it was mostly about how she wanted to get as far away from them as she could once she'd grown up. She never told me why. I asked a few times, but she would pretend she hadn't heard me. I didn't want to go to camp that summer. I wanted to stay with her, to help her through the divorce. But she insisted I go away. I figured she wanted just the alone time, so I gave it to her. Camp was awful. I hated it. I thought it would be better being a junior counselor, but it wasn't. No one I knew from the previous year had come back, so I didn't know anyone. Not a single person. Not even sure why, but I started playing this little make-believe game with the girls in the camp. They'd ask me stuff about myself, and I'd make things up. My parents are in Europe, I told them. I live in a huge townhouse in the nicest street in North River Heights. I have a dog named Daisy. Then one day, I blurted out that I had a little brother who was deformed. I have absolutely no idea why I said this. It seemed like an interesting thing to say, and of course the reaction I got from the little girls in the bungalow was dramatic. Really? So sorry. That must be tough, etc., etc. I regretted saying this the moment it escaped from my lips, of course. I felt like such a fake. If Via ever found out, I thought she'd think I was such a weirdo. And I felt like a weirdo, but I have to admit there was a part of me that felt a little entitled to this lie. I've known Augie since I was 6 years old. I've watched him grow up. I've played with him. I've watched all 6 episodes of Star Wars for his sake so I could talk to him about the aliens and bounty hunters and all that. I'm the one that gave him the astronaut helmet he wouldn't take off for 2 years. I mean, I've kind of earned the right to think of him as my brother. And the strangest thing is that these lies I told, these fictions, did wonders for my popularity. The other junior counselors heard from the campers and they were all over it. Never in my life have I ever been considered one of the popular girls in anything. But that summer in camp, for whatever reason, I was the girl everyone wanted to hang out with. Even the girls in Bungalow 32 were totally into me. These were the girls at the top of the food chain. They said they liked my hair, though they changed it. They said they liked the way I did my makeup, though they changed that too. They showed me how to turn my t-shirts into different shirts. We snuck out late at night and took the path through the woods to the boys' camp. We hung out with the boys. When I got home from camp, I called Ella right away to make plans with her. I don't know why I didn't call Via. I guess I just didn't feel like talking about stuff with her. She would have asked me about my parents, about camp. Ella never really asked me about things. She was an easier friend in that way. She wasn't serious like Via. She was fun. She thought it was cool when I dyed my hair pink. She wanted to hear all about those trips through the woods late at night. School. I hardly saw Via at school this year, and when I did, it was awkward. Felt like she was judging me. I knew she didn't like my new look. I knew she didn't like my group of friends. I didn't much like hers. We never actually argued. We just drifted away. Ella and I badmouthed her to each other. She's so this, she's so that. We knew we were being mean, but it was much easier to ice her out if we pretended she had done something to us. The truth is, she hadn't changed at all. We had. We'd become these other people, and she was still the person she'd always been. That annoyed me so much. I didn't know why. Once in a while, I'd look to see where she was sitting in the lunchroom or check an elective list to see what she had signed up for, but except for a few nods in the hallway and an occasional hello, we never really spoke to each other. I noticed Justin about halfway through the school year. I hadn't noticed him at all before then, other than that he was this skinny, cutish dude with thick glasses and longish hair who carried a violin everywhere. Then one day I saw him in front of the school with his arm around Via. "So Via has a boyfriend?" I said to Ella, kind of mocking. I don't know why it surprised me that she'd have a boyfriend. Out of the three of us, she was totally the prettiest. Blue eyes and long, wavy, dark hair. But she just never acted like she was at all interested in boys. She acted like she was too smart for that kind of stuff. I had a boyfriend too, a guy named Zach. When I told him I was choosing the theater elective, he shook his head and said, "Careful you don't turn into one of those drama geeks." Not the most sympathetic dude in the world, but very cute. Very high up on the totem pole, a varsity athlete. I wasn't planning on taking theater at first. Then I saw Via's name on the sign-up sheet and just wrote my name down on the list. I don't even know why. We managed to avoid one another throughout most of the semester like we didn't even know each other. Then one day I got to theater class a little early and Davenport asked me to run off additional copies of the play he was planning on having us do for the spring production. The Elephant Man. I had heard about it, but I didn't really know. Sorry. Somebody's here, I think. Probably the delivery truck. Okay. I had heard about it, but I didn't really know what it was about. So I started skimming through the pages while I was waiting for the Xerox machine. It was about a man who lived more than 100 years ago, John Merrick, who was terribly deformed. "We can't do this play, Mr. D," I told him when I got back to class. I told him why. My little brother has a birth defect and has a deformed face, and this play would hit too close to home. He seemed annoyed and a little unsympathetic, but I kind of said that my parents would have a real issue with the school doing this play, so anyway, he ended up switching to our town. I think I went for the role Emily Gibbs because I knew Via was going for it too. It never occurred to me that I'd beat her for the role. What I miss the most. One of the things I miss the most about Via's friendship is her family. I loved her mom and dad. They were always so welcoming and nice to me. I knew they loved their kids more than anything. I always felt safe around them. Safer than anywhere else in the world. How pathetic that I felt safer at someone else's house than in my own, right? And of course, I loved Augie. I was never afraid of him. Even when I was little, I had friends that couldn't believe I'd ever go to Via's house. "His face creeps me out," they'd say. "You're dumb," I'd tell them. Augie's face isn't so bad once you get used to it. I called Via's house once just to say hello to Augie. Maybe part of me was hoping Via would answer. I don't know. "Hey, Major Tom," I said, using my nickname for him. "Miranda!" He sounded so happy to hear my voice, it actually kind of took me by surprise. "I'm going to a regular school now," he told me excitedly. "Really? Wow," I said, totally shocked. I guess I never thought he'd go to a regular school. His parents have always been so protective, of him. I guess I thought he'd always be that little kid in the astronaut helmet I gave him. Talking to him, I could tell that he had no idea that Via and I weren't close anymore. "It's different in high school," I explained to him. "You end up hanging out with loads of different people." "I have new friends at my new school," he told me. "A kid named Jack and a girl named Summer." "That's awesome, Augie," I said. "Well, I was just calling to tell you I miss you, and I hope you're having a good year. Feel free to call me whenever you want, okay, Augie? You know I love you always." "I love you too, Miranda. Say hi to Via for me. Tell her I miss her." "I will. Bye." "Bye." And that's all for today.